Hi everyone, here's the book chemist once again. Today I'm reviewing Armada by Ernest Cline. Cline's second novel after Ready Player One is wildly successful, wildly popular novel about this huge RPG, online RPG on a global scale, very imaginative science fiction novel. I liked it quite a lot. I reviewed it on my channel ages ago. You can watch the video at your own risk. I actually wanted to read Armada since it came out, but I was discouraged at first by several negative reviews I read at the time, and everybody, even big Cline fans, seemed to dislike the book for some reason. And then this summer I decided, well, let's figure out for myself, if I like it or not. And what I can tell you straight away is that, well, one of the defining traits of Ready Player One was its being deeply rooted in nerd culture, especially early nerd culture, 80s pop culture, sci-fi movies, comic books, those kinds of things. Here, that idea is mixed with the idea of a military science fiction novel in the same vein as Heinlein's Starship Troopers, The Forever War by Joe Haldeman, and this idea of being deeply rooted in nerd culture already made Ready Player One pretty much a nerd's wet dream, and Armada takes that to a whole different level. This is not really a nerd's wet dream, it's a 12-hour porn dream marathon for nerds. Really, there's nothing wrong with wish fulfillment in fiction, especially in fantasy science fiction, but this really gets completely out of hand. I wasted the first 18 years of my life playing video games, but that's not bad, it's what makes me a hero. This dorky jacket full of video game patches is not stupid, and it's not the kind of thing that will get me punched if I wear it outside. It's actually pretty cool and everybody likes it. I do nothing but sitting on my butt eating bad junk food all day, but I'm not obese and full of pimples. I'm actually quite handsome. That one girl I talked to for 5 minutes not only shares all of my passions, but she fell for me the same way I fell for her. We didn't cause the economic crisis and wreck the whole planet because we're assholes, we did it because we were preparing for an alien invasion. Like, the whole thing turns out being hilarious after a certain point, and this leads to one of the book's problems in my opinion, which is that the book could have been hilarious had the whole idea behind it been handled differently, but the book takes itself way too seriously if you ask me. The idea behind the book is completely over the top and completely ridiculous, and I won't tell you what it is, but you'll find out in chapter 2. Probably you already know about it if you're interested in the book. And this could have been handled subtly with humor, but Cline instead somehow tried to present this whole concept as if it made sense, as if it was justifiable on a level of plot, and didn't just make fun of the plot holes but tried to justify them, and that ruins the whole thing to me up to a certain point. There's humor in this book, but it's not really subtle, it's not really in the right places. It doesn't help really that the book is, if you ask me, quite badly written. It's not well written at all. The pace of the whole thing is completely off, and there's way too much exposition, especially in the first half of the novel, where Cline tries to explain you how this fantasy and science fiction world works, and it's a bit like when you're playing with another kid, when you're children, when you're playing with Lego, and the other kid goes, okay, this is my Lego castle, and there's a king who lives in it, and there are dragons living in the forest outside the castle, that's fine. But when the other kid starts going, and the king has a fire wand, which he won in a contest on top of the fire mountain across the shimmering ocean, and the fire wand can be used 5 times a day, but only if the moon is full, otherwise you can use it 3 times a day and a half. You start going, shut the fuck up, Marco, let's just play with the fucking Lego. And the same happens here. At one point you just want the book to, like, go on, instead you keep hearing about how these video games work and how these things were created in the book's world, and by the time things start to happen you're 80% within the book already. The use of the first person was also a mistake if you ask me. Jonathan Franzen once said that you should always stick to the third person unless you have a peculiar and interesting point of view, and the main character here, knowing him through this first person really doesn't help, because it makes it quite impossible to relate with him. Really, this guy is a colossal nerd who doesn't do anything but playing video games, but at the same time he's completely handsome, he's full of girlfriends, he's brave, he's courageous. Really, his biggest flaw is that he can't help himself from defending nerds from bullies. That's the one thing that, like, makes him flawed. I don't know how many nerds out there will be able to relate to him. Now, don't get me wrong, I liked some things about the book, and in its being overtly a piece of fiction inspired by bad 80s movies, in its being over the top in this way, there are some emotional moments in the book, and some interesting imaginative passages in the book. Also, I like the fact that at the end of the book you get a Maxell, like, remember music tapes? You get basically the songs in the music tape. I don't know if you can see in the music tape the character is listening to all the time in the novel. Unluckily enough, it's a bit like the worst of the 80s, and in a way this guy was obsessed with bands like Scorpions, AC/DC, and stuff. This is very much like an AC/DC album, a good AC/DC album, Power Age. If you're 16 and you know shit about music, you might even think it's the best record of all times. If your tastes are a bit more refined, it will be a bit impossible for you to appreciate fully, but you could still enjoy it all the same. At the same time, I don't know what kind of person could enjoy like listening to AC/DC 6 hours straight. And this is what this novel asks you to do, basically. I know I keep reviewing adult books by using Goosebumps books as a reference, but at the end of the day, to me, this is very much like a Goosebumps book, but one of the bad ones, like Chicken Chicken, like Don't Go to Sleep, like Legend of the Lost Legend. It's imaginative and you want to like it very much because you like the idea, but at the end of the day its flows shadow completely its good parts. Even the pop culture references, which I loved both in Ready Player One, I loved in Ready Player One, I love these kinds of books, here feel completely forced, because here the fact is that everyone in the whole world is basically obsessed with early nerd culture, and that's just more wish fulfillment. It's not believable. At the end of the day, I don't know who I would suggest this book to. Maybe no one. Maybe people who are really loved Ready Player One and want a bit more of the same, or people who are like really into military science fiction. Novels like the ones I mentioned. That's it. Let me know what you think of Armada, guys. Did you like it? Did you read many positive reviews? Because I didn't. What do you think of the book? Do you think Cline is a one-hit wonder? Are you waiting for his next novel? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching once again, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.